G'day, it's Tim Morgan here from Rapala, Australia, with arguably the world's best bass fisherman, Jacob Wheeler. Jacob, welcome to Australia. We've had about a week on the Barra now, and to be honest, I'm blown away. Everything I thought I knew about Barra, out the window, and the learning curve's been like this all week, mate. How have you enjoyed it?
Oh, it's everything that I mean, I couldn't even imagine. I can't put into words how awesome these fish actually are. And it's met and over exceeded all of my expectations. Truly something that I can't wait to get back here eventually, maybe next year.
Maybe next year. I know there's a few baits from back home that you would go, oh, gee, I wish I bought this, I wish I bought that. But I think for me, the baits that you're using, how you're using them, the gear, the leader and everything you're using on has really opened my eyes of sometimes we get stuck in the rut of what we're doing. I know over in the States on the largemouth, smallmouth, you use a lot of forward-facing sonar,
Absolutely.
dropping minnows, freeloaders, things like the jerks on them to catch them. You've adapted those techniques to Australia, and you've been whaling on me, and your thumb tells a story that you have been as well.
Yeah, they've been tearing me up a little bit. They're a little bit mean, and yeah, definitely my confidence base throwing. Freeloaders and jerks, they just generate bites and it's a predatory, like the predator fish. They're trying to eat, they're trying to feed, and so I was unsure. Obviously you hear, hey, you need to throw swim baits, you need to do this, you need to do that, but of course you got to throw your own twist to it. And I think that's the big key is anglers. I try not to get too complacent in the States, trying to throw the same thing all the time. But it's easy to do because you get confident in something and you want to do that. But there's always something a little bit better, something a little bit more unique, or the fish haven't seen that there's, these fish are definitely reacting really well to throwing those 5-inch and 7-inch jerks and showing them something different because they haven't seen that.
Yeah, and to me, like a lot of the guys have been scoping over here, they're all perspective mode. So throwing jerk bait's a big thing, and with you, your confidence is forward facing. So it's been unbelievable sitting in the back of the boat, watching you cover the area, see a fish, go back and forth, see which way that fish is going. It'll give you the exact depth of the fish, but then your casting accuracy to get that lure on that fish's nose is next level. But then once you get it there, you've got the jerks here and you're just shaking it on their nose. So why do you like the jerk to get down to those fish?
Okay, so showing you guys two different baits. This is a 7-inch jerk, a little bit bigger profile, and then you have the 5-inch jerk right here. And so both of these are super TPE. And the big key with a jerk and like freeloader type baits is they don't have a boot tail on the back of them. So you're so much more efficient to get that bait down to those fish because I'm using forward view. I can see if that fish is 10 feet down, 3 meters down, 10 meters down, 2 meters down, where he's at, and I can adjust the bait accordingly, the weight of the head accordingly to where the fish is in the water column. So the key with this more than anything is the rolling action. So when I'm shaking, I'm giving it a semi-slack line and I'm giving it line to allow for that bait to roll. So that's really imparting the action in the bait. So I'm imparting the action in the bait rather than a swim bait. When you reel it, you have the body roll, you have the kick tail, but this is sort of the best of both worlds. It's a lot more subtle. It's definitely a technique that works typically a little bit better in cleaner water because they can see further, and we've seen that from dam to dam, how, Kinchin, they can see further and they're gonna come a little bit further away, where, obviously Timbra and up here at Peter Faust, they have a little bit smaller, strike zone. So figuring that out and then adjusting your weight size has been very key as well. And I mean, to me, whether I'm throwing like a 7.0 medium heavy, throwing that a little bit shorter leader. I mean, I do have micro guides and a lot of my stuff, so it's a little different. But that's been a way to get that bait down there a little bit faster and to generate the bite.
Yeah. So the shorter leader, you said for the micro guides, but like you're basically having your leaders till you can't tie another loop knot in it. And whereas a lot of guys in Australia are running a full rod length, like we've got a little bit bigger guides for the FG knots and stuff. So that's been a learning curve for me as well. But also not running stingers. Like Australians, we like putting as many hooks on lures as we can to get it. But you don't run a stinger on this because you said it affects the action.
Absolutely. So, of course, knowing that you guys do that on all your swim baits and heavy hitters and stuff like that, and you have a single hook and then you put a treble hook on the belly, I tried that with like the 7-inch jerk, which typically you can get away with a little bit more with a bigger profile bait. So you're gonna have, I can throw a heavier head on the 7-inch jerk and get more body roll than I can on that same head, say a 3/4 ounce head for the jerk on a 7-inch versus the 5-inch, because there's more plastic and it can sort of override the heaviness of the head. So the key though, I tried this and put a stinger back there, because of course there's some that headbutt it and miss it, and you do have some good hookup ratio. But as I shook the bait, it wants to stay very streamlined. It doesn't have that body roll, so you hurt the action of the bait. And very quickly we found, probably, like, I would say realistically, the single hook, when I do hook up, you know, we're probably at batting about 90%, 90-some%.
It blew me away, but I think also because you're using lighter weights than people.
Yep.
You haven't got the boot tail.
Yep.
Like you're using 1/4, 3/8, half, up to 3/4 on the 7.0 if they're a little bit deeper.
Yep.
But the hook, a lot of the hooks have been down it. When they eat it, they're eating it. But also they're hooked in the jaw and stuff.
That is the key. They're not, a lot of those fish are definitely not getting it way down their gullet. Like when I'm hooking them, they're not, like, it's not, when they bite it and they get it down there in the bottom of their throat, like I pull it back out and it's hooking them in the corners, which is make them not jump as much, which is definitely helping with hook to land ratio.
Yep.
And that's something that, I mean, like, for me, just as an angler, like, obviously I've had some jump off. You're gonna have that happen with barramundi, and you're gonna have some get in the trees. That's part of the game. But it has been, you know, it's been a great tool for the trees as well, because when you only have a single hook and it's in its mouth, you don't have those treble hooks out there when he's getting around trees to get hung up in the tree and to pull that bait out of its mouth and rip it out. You can now get that fish in a little bit easier. You don't have as much stuff to get hung up.
Yeah, so no, it's been an eye-opener for me. And also the lighter weight jig head. So the lighter weight one's less weight on it for him to throw it.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the lighter weight jig head. Another thing is you want a little bit thinner hook. You don't want a super, super thick hook. So figuring out your hook, like you can have a super, like, you know, I was, you know, talking to Tommy, and Tommy was trying to use the a little bit bigger hook, like maybe, I don't know, maybe it was a 6X or something like that.
Yep.
But your hookup ratio, sometimes you don't penetrate that.
Yep.
So you got to figure out the fine line of the right jig head, the right hook, and figuring out what works for you is a big part of it.
And then in open water, which is, we fished a lot of open water in these tournaments, you know, you don't have to go as hard on them.
No, you don't. I think that's the biggest thing that, you know, I had to realize the first night I went really hard on one fish and he broke me off and took all my stuff, and he's laughing at me still. But so you learn as you go, and taking that time, and like, so for me, I you know, if the fish is about to run, even like with my bait caster, I'll have my drag pretty tight. At first I hook him, and then I'm backing my drag off as I fight the fish. So he can take line when it needs to, then pull, you know, it's more of a spinning rod aspect, because they have so much strength. When they make those runs, they can break you off so easy, and of course, they're gonna find a weakness when you're out in the open water. They're gonna find, or, you know, even in the trees, they're gonna find a weakness, but even in the open water, if your drag's tight, that's when you're gonna get the more chafing, and then the more resistance you have here, the easier it is for them to break it off.
Yep.
Whereas, if you're going half as hard, they're not gonna break you off nearly as much.
And I think it's been amazing this week, the amount of fish you've caught with none chafed off. So, so I think I'm a firm believer, the harder you go, the quicker you're gonna chafe it off. So, so mate, it's been an epic week, 2 wins, I think an 8, and sitting in 3rd going to the last day of the 2-nighter tonight. Hopefully you love the tour. Hopefully we see you back out here next year, because I tell you, there's a lot of Aussies who are going to be forward-facing sonar with jerks, getting schooled up for when you come back.
I know, it's going to be awesome. I could already, you know, the buzz is here. Everybody knows how awesome that jerk really is, and everybody's talking about, like, hey, oh, I caught one on the first time I've done it. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's so cool forward view. And that's what fishing's all about, is just going and learning new techniques. So I'm looking forward to coming back. But I'm also looking forward to getting back out there tonight. My knuckles might be a little bit raw, but I can handle a couple more, and we're gonna see if we can't close this one out good.
All right, cheers, mate.
Thank you, my friend.